Chief Heather Morris has done, as well as Interim Chief Dan Oates and Art Arcevedo, only a permanent police chief can bring about the lasting changes necessary to make the Aurora Police Department an organization that best serves the needs of our community. With that, I'd like to introduce Todd Chamberlain.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate it. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for this time that you're giving me to kind of introduce myself. It's funny, last night on the news I heard that I was announced, and some of the news items were a lifelong practitioner of law enforcement. Well, it wasn't necessarily lifelong, but it's been my entire adult life without question. I've had a great opportunity to serve various communities, to serve various departments, to serve various agencies and organizations, and all of it was for the betterment of individuals and betterment of communities. I have a passion for law enforcement. I believe in what it stands for. I have seen when it's done properly and ethically, what the results are, what the outcomes are, not only to the agency or the organization or the officers, but to the people that we serve. And then more importantly, I've had the opportunity to see when it doesn't go right, when things aren't done correctly. And that skill set that I have, that skill set that I've honed in over 35 years of law enforcement, I can't wait, and I really have that desire to bring into the city of Aurora. The partnerships that I think that we can build as an agency, as an organization, the relationships that we can collaborate on and build within the community, I think we can set a new standard. When I look at the opportunity to come here, again, Aurora is now my home. My wife's in the back. Her and I will both be residing and living here, and we're looking forward to it. And I thank you for the opportunity. I thank the council for the opportunity to be here. I thank the mayor. I thank the city manager for his faith in what I can bring, what I can do. But none of it happens in a vacuum. All of it has to be done at a level that we collaborate with others, where we collaborate with community groups, where we collaborate with other government entities, where we collaborate with you on the other side of this camera. And we ask, how can we all serve? How can we all make a difference? And that's what I'm passionate about, and that's what I'm here for, and that's what I can't wait to start. So thank you very much.
Questions? We'll start with anyone.
Vicente Arenas with Fox 31 for Chief Chamberlain, please. What were you told, Chief, and nice to meet you, and welcome to Colorado.
Thank you.
What were you told will be your make or break point in this city that has had 7 police chiefs in so many years? What metric will you be measured by?
Well, I hope I'm measured by the results. And those results are going to come in how people feel living in the city of Aurora, how the community feels. Do they feel that they're law enforcement agency? Do they feel that the practitioners that are involved in the law enforcement arena, do they feel that they are respected? Do they feel that they are serving? Do they feel that they are giving the community what the community needs and what the community deserves? And I think that's really the metric for me. I think it's also looking at the diversity of Aurora. I think making sure that everyone is served, making sure that everyone feels that they are represented. I think that's going to be a pivotal part. Again, I look back at my historical perspective in law enforcement, where I've been. I have been in some of the most diverse communities in the United States. I have served in those communities. I have learned in those communities. I have partnership in those communities. And everything that was done before this date, it was something that I have been able to build on. And so that's when you talk about the metric, what's the metric of success? For me, the metric of success is when the community, the citizens of Aurora feel that they have a legitimate police agency that's there to serve them for their best interest, to do the best that they can possibly do. That's going to be my measurement of success. And to make sure that the officers that are doing it feel that they are supported, feel that they are trained, feel that they are acknowledged in this incredibly challenging task that they have to undertake. And that's another aspect that I really look forward to doing. Yes, sir.
One follow-up.
Yep.
You're stepping into a situation where there's an incredible problem with a situation at apartments in this community where there's a very large migrant population and problems with code issues. Are you aware of that problem, and have you had a chance to look at that yet in terms of what you might do to perhaps bring down the crime at those particular apartments?
You know what, I don't have all of the particulars on the issues that you're talking about. I know some of what you're speaking of. But again, I look at what I have done throughout my career. And again, these issues that you are experiencing here in Aurora are nothing that I haven't experienced in the city of Los Angeles, or many other departments are experiencing right now. With the influx of immigration, making sure that they are accounted for, making sure that they are also served, making sure that they aren't underserved or overserved. And that's really going to be the balance, because I've dealt with a lot of immigrant populations, a lot of very nuanced, different groups. I mean, Ecuadorians, Salvadorians, how they relate to Mexicans, how Mexicans relate to Guatemalans, how Venezuelans relate to other groups, what they do within that system and how they interact. And I think it's really important too, when you talk about the immigration issue involved, is making sure that they feel that they know that they can reach out to Aurora Police Department and have a conversation with us. Because what you see a lot of times is that immigrant population, they will go underreported. So what you're seeing that might be an issue or what might be a conflict, we might not even really know what the real numbers are. And so that's really what my role is too, is to be able to say, not just anecdotally, well, that looks like a bad problem or that looks like an issue, but to really start building the relationships, to start getting some information so that we can actually analyze, come up with an evidence-based approach to say, hey, here's the problems, here are the problem makers. It's not an entire population, it's not an entire immigration group. It's going to be specific people that may or may not be causing the issue. And those are the ones that we are focused on. Those are the ones that we will do intervention, prevention programs. Those are the ones we'll do hotspot policing on. Those are the ones that will have short and long-term goals to try to address. So those are the things for me that are going to be important. And again, it doesn't matter if it's in the city of Los Angeles, it doesn't matter if it's the city of Aurora. The most important part to me is that everybody feels that they can come to a police officer. Because when you're dealing with immigration, when you're dealing with different nationalities, what someone might think a police officer is in Venezuela or Guatemala or El Salvador could be very different than what a police officer is here in the United States, in Aurora, in Colorado. And so it's my job, it's my role to have those relationships built to where there's a trust factor where people will step forward and articulate out exactly what's going on, how it's going on, so that we can most effectively address the issue.
Thank you.
Chief, Esteban Hernandez with Axios. The Attorney General's office, in his statement congratulating you, is calling for a creation of an independent monitor office for Aurora. First of all, are you familiar with this, and do you support that idea?
And I'm going to pass that off to...
So we actually had funding for an independent police monitor office previously in the budget. When we underwent the consent decree and the consent decree monitor was appointed, we've decided that, there's only one monitor at a time. So the consent decree will be coming to a conclusion in 2027. So, and I know everybody will read the budget cover to cover when I publish it later this month. I'm looking at all of you, but I'll give you a little, preview of that, which is, there will be funding included in the 2026 budget to reestablish the Office of the Independent Monitor, so that there's a transition period from the consent decree monitor to that independent police monitor.
Can the chief comment on whether or not he supports that, please?
In regards to monitoring, independent monitoring, again, I believe in it. I think it's an important aspect. I think it's something that we should not ever shy away from. I think if you have an organization or a department that is running properly, running ethically, doing all the correct steps, I think that should be applauded. It should be seen. It should be very transparent. And so again, even with the consent decree monitor and what's going on with that and how it's reviewed and how it's looked at, again, I don't look at that as a time to say, wow, I want to make sure nothing bad comes out of this. I want to make sure, hey, let's find out what's really going on. Let's really see what the issues are, what the problems are. Nothing cannot be addressed. But if you don't expose yourself to it, if you don't understand it, it's never going to be better. And so that's what I'm doing right now, is looking for that call for action to make things better. So thank you very much. Ma'am?
Hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much.
I'm Susan Green from the Sentinel,
Yeah.
and this is a question both for you and for you, Jason. I'm hearing you talk about transparency and availability and engagement. I think the people who are concerned about that really want it on the front end before the vote on the 26th, not on the back end after the fact. So if you waited 28 months, I think, with an interim chief, what's 2 weeks to really engage with the city, let folks vet your background, things like what happened with your last couple jobs, why they ended, et cetera. I mean, 28 months, agreed, is a long time, but what is the damage of just putting the vote off for 2 weeks?
Jason?
So part of that is, again, it is 28 months, and so that process starts now. So it starts today with this press conference. It starts in the coming weeks here where Todd will engage and we'll hear folks. And so that's, I think, part of the plan is now we're going to engage from here.
It's like 4 days. It's 4 days until the vote. So it's a 4-day public process?
So again, it's actually that, because that's what the charter lays out. The charter lays out that I appoint and that council confirms. And so this is the process we're using.
Right, but aside from the charter, there's a increasing, including this morning, voice in the community that they want more public input and more time. So why not just allow that?
So this is the process we're using, Susan, and so this is what we're moving forward with.
Okay, that's not an answer.
But it's not the answer you want to hear, but it is an answer.
Okay.
Tony Gorman, Colorado Public Radio. I know you talked about the public input, and this is a question for both of you. So there have been some organizations that's been upset with that. Organizations, people of color, more importantly, the African-American community, and the African-American community since 2019 with the killing of Elijah McClain, the outcome of those cases, up to now with Kyla and Lewis. I just want to know your thoughts on your philosophy on accountability, and how do you plan to address these kind of concerns with the African-American community, and also too, the Aurora chapter, the NAACP, they said they were willing to work with you, but they're kind of upset that they weren't able to get the public input, but I know you explained that, so I know that's a lot, but.
No, I'll start before I turn it over to the chief, I've spoken with Omar. I understand his concerns. I respect his concerns. And so again, part of that for me now is, and I appreciate his willingness to work with the chief, and that's what he's expressed to me, is his disappointment in their lack of public input to this point, but that he has expressed a willingness to work with Todd, and he's looking forward to that. So that's I thank him for that, and that's kind of the next step for us is start building those relationships. So if you want to talk about accountability, chief, and the rest of that question.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question, and I think it is without question one of the most important questions that's probably going to come out today, because when you look at law enforcement, when you look at policing, those incidents related to use of force are really the ones that change the dynamics of how law enforcement's looked at. And I'm not talking for any one specific department, I'm talking across the nation, really. And so that accountability component is something that I truly believe in. It's something that I've instituted in every place that I've gone. When I was at school police, one of the first things I did was audit as far as on use of force investigations, how they were conducted, who they were conducted by, who were the individuals that use of force was applied on, how was that force applied, what was that in relation to the type of calls or service. For me, the use of force aspect is an incredibly important one. It's not only about the incident of the force itself, it's about how did the officers get to that force. What got them there? What was the steps they took from the first time they got that call for service until that force happened? I had the opportunity to work at what's called Force Investigation Division, and we looked at all officer-involved shootings in the city of Los Angeles. I did all categorical use of forces or anything that involved hospitalizations. And for me, that really set a tone that I'm going to bring here to Aurora. It's not just about the dynamics of the force itself, but it's that accountability component to say, okay, this is not just an issue of litigation. It's not just an issue of was the officer right or was it wrong, but it's really a question of, again, what could we do to make sure that this doesn't happen again? Or what could we do to make sure that if it does happen, it's done more effectively? There's different tools. There's de-escalation training that can be done. There's logistics, such as tasers or beanbags or something else that could de-escalate someone from being shot at to someone being subdued with other systems that are in place. There's also the part of communication, how the officers talk. Again, I could come up with all the most amazing policies and procedures in the world and say how these are going to be the dynamic turning point for a department, for the city of Aurora. But unless that officer, unless he or she at 2 o'clock in the morning embraces those policies, embraces those concepts, embraces those ideas, that officer at 2 o'clock in the morning who's making contact with somebody in the back alley somewhere, if they don't understand that, if they don't embrace those, that to me is going to be the thing that I am striving for and the thing that I'm going to hold myself, my staff, and my personnel accountable for. So again, when we look at use of force, those two incidents you talked about, again, they are tragic incidents. There's no getting around it. But the matter of the point is how do we get there? What could we have done different to avoid it? Use of forces under my command, use of forces are still going to happen. there is no way you can say that you aren't going to have use of forces in law enforcement in any place or any city. It's not a matter of if or when they're going to happen, but it's how they happen. And how can we avoid it and how can we minimize it? When you're dealing with law enforcement, when you're dealing with policing, again, you're dealing with a very unique crowd. You're dealing with people that, one, they might not want to be around law enforcement. They don't want anything to do with law enforcement. They could be under substances. They could have mental health issues. There's a myriad of different things. And when you think about law enforcement, again, you think of the job itself. You think about what it does. There's very few jobs where you can take someone's freedoms away, where you can incarcerate somebody, where you can stop somebody from movement. And a lot of people don't want that, but there's a lot of times that has to happen. And so use of forces are going to happen. And I'm sorry, but that's the unfortunate reality of what life is in law enforcement. But I want to make sure that there's not a disproportionate number of use of forces. I want to make sure that each use of force is investigated thoroughly and properly. If there's a deviation, I want to make sure that not only the officer involved in that use of force understands what happened, but I want to make sure the entire department understands what happened. I want to look at best practices that come out through Bureau of Justice Administration. I want to see what has been the pattern of conduct, what has been the things that have had the hugest impact. When you talk about de-escalation, again, I was at the forefront of de-escalation, the ideas of being able to communicate, to talk, to use time, to use patience, to use different tools. All of those things are things that I have honed and done over my career, and they're all things that I'm really enthusiastically looking forward to bringing into the city of Aurora.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Danielle Corder with Denver 7, a question for you, Chief. Can you explain what you perceive to be the challenges of taking over a department that hasn't had steady leadership in so long, and what your strategy would be for that, whether it be morale, department reputation, recruitment?
Thank you very much for that. And again, I don't think it's one-dimensional. I think there's many things that are going to have to occur when you think of what this department is going through and what they have been through. Again, this is still an amazing organization. The officers here, again, I've had the opportunity to sit with the staff, and they are all incredibly proud to be in the position of Aurora Police Department. They are incredibly proud to be leaders within that position. When I look at what our interim chief has done, again, being able to bring these concepts and ideas of the consent decree and actually make them into a fruition, again, it's very important. So there's a lot of work to be done, but it's work that's still being built. It's work that can still be built on the foundation. And what I mean by that is, you look at the community aspect. The biggest aspect we have now, does the community feel they can trust Aurora Police Department? Do they have a strong relationship with Aurora Police Department? The consent decree, I think that's a really important part, because again, to have an agency come from the outside and actually dissect and do a biopsy of what your organization or what your agency is doing, nobody really wants that. I went through that with the city of LA, and it's a burden. It's a struggle to deal with it. But it's also a needed burden. It's something that you have to understand, hey, we need to do this. And not only do we need to do it, it's not just about checking the boxes so we can get out of it. That's mildly entertaining to me. I could care less. It's about, are we doing things that are going to set the standard for long after I'm not sitting in that chair, long after much of that command staff is no longer there? Are the things that we are instituting now, or the things that we are putting into place, are they going to resonate down through the organization? To somebody who just stepped out of the academy 3 months ago, I heard you had an academy class of about 30 officers. The truth and the actual evaluation of success is going to be, do those officers that stepped out 3 months ago, in 30 years, are they still going to have the same values, the same beliefs, the same ideas about how policing should be done and where it should be done and when it should be done? That, to me, will be a success. I think the morale, when you look at all of it, again, my plan for this and what I always will focus on is going to be three things: crime, the community, and risk mitigation, both internal and external. The community, again, that community partnership, community policing, I thoroughly believe in it. I thoroughly have instituted it. When I think of 21st century policing, the pillars that are related to that, again, I've been an instructor for the past about 6 years at California State University, Los Angeles. And it's been incredibly rewarding for me to be able to teach in an environment that I used to patrol. And the things to me that was so important about that is to be able to stay constant on what is unfolding within the law enforcement community. How can that be pressed into somebody who's young, who has an idea about what they want to be and how they want to be, and not just see the negative aspects, but see the aspects where they can actually change society, they can impact a person's life. The morale that's involved with that, again, treating our employees of the Aurora Police Department with the respect that I believe that they deserve, making sure that we understand that there is staffing issues that we have to address. We can't just keep saying, oh, everything's okay, and we're going to keep pushing black and whites out and not expect them at some point to say, hey, I got a workload here and I can't keep doing this. There's organizational issues, there's policy procedure issues. There's a lot of different things that are gonna measure success. But again, when I get here, when I get that opportunity to look, to do a biopsy, to do a case analysis, the one thing that, again, I've very been thankful for is I had the opportunity to work in a private sector position. That private sector position was focused specifically on technology and how technology and data could enhance law enforcement. And again, when you see something that's happening and you're not capturing it and then you don't understand it, well, then how do you know where to put your officers? How do you know where to spend your money? How do you know what and when we need to do what we need to do? So again, that evidence-based approach to me, that's a term you're going to hear a lot from me. It's evidence-based because I truly believe in it. It has to be founded on evidence. It can't be anecdotal information. It can't be something, oh, this person said that, so we're going to go flood this area, or that person said that. It's going to be based upon looking at the statistics, looking at the information, having conversations with the community, ensuring that this is a problem to them. Once we verified it, once we looked at it, then let's get our resources and let's allocate a plan and a strategic way to address this problem. So again, it's a multifaceted approach, but I do hope that I can bring the stability that this department needs. Again, when you hear all the issues related to the selection process, I think the question has to be, well, has the selection process worked in the past? And I'm going to be very candid with you. I don't think it has. You've had 5 chiefs in 5 years, and for whatever reason, why, how that selection went, I don't know. But I know that I'm here to commit. I'm here to take this organization. I'm here to say that I am part of the city of Aurora. I am part of the city of Aurora Police Department, and I am looking forward to what's going to unfold.
Chief Shelley Bradbury with the Denver Post. You just mentioned data and technology. APD recently stopped a year-long program of reviewing all body-worn camera footage with AI to sort of determine professionalism in the audio. Would you support bringing that program back, or some sort of similar oversight that reviews all footage from body-worn cameras?
You know what, I don't know specifically about the system you're talking about, so I'm not going to really get into that, but I do believe that technology can be used in ways that hasn't been used in law enforcement. I think when you look at the development of AI, when you look at the technology that's out there, I think we're going to see an incredibly interesting time in law enforcement like we are across the world right now. And again, I am one who, I embrace that. I am going to look for the most effective, efficient way to use technology to enhance Aurora's Police Department commitment and service to the community that we serve. And I never will shy away from that. Again, it's something that I've been deeply ingrained in. It's something that I grew up on in LAPD through ComStats, and it's something that I really look forward to bringing into here.
Chief, a follow-up question.
Yep.
Have you, Vicente Arenas with Fox 31 again.
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with the gang called Tren de Aragua, commonly referred to as TDA? I've been talking with a lot of people in the streets here of Aurora saying they are in fear of a gang like this, and a lot of them fear that they could be killed because of the violence that they're carrying out. We're wanting to learn more about that gang, and a task force was recently established to address it. Are you familiar with this gang, and do you know how to deal with a gang like this?
Yeah, and sir, thank you for the question. No, I'm not familiar with that particular gang, but I was raised and lived in a community and worked in a community where gangs were actually founded. When you look at the Rolling 60s, when you look at M13, when you look at the Salvadorian gangs, again, my experience with them is extensive. My knowledge of them is extensive, and I think more importantly, my ability to address them is extensive. And what I mean by that is not just addressing them through enforcement activities. That's going to be without question a part. Like I said, we're going to focus on the individuals that are causing the issue. But it's also about making sure that those individuals that are on the cusp of tipping into a gang, intervention, prevention programs, youth programs. Again, a big part of what I did as a chief of police with Los Angeles School Police was looking at the opportunity to intercede or change the dynamics or trajectory of an individual or a child before they actually fell into gangs. I did a lot of work with Operation Ceasefire through National Network for Safe Communities, which was out of John Jay College in New York. I actually instituted what was known as the Ceasefire program in LA, where it was a community collaborative, where the community identified issues, we identified locations that were problematic, we identified individuals where gangs actively involved, where there was a high propensity for violence, either being shot or shooting at somebody, and we use those as levers to change the dynamics. And it wasn't just a law enforcement thing. And to me, that's to me is the thing that's so important. It wasn't just me up there saying, hey, this is what law enforcement's going to do and pointing that finger. It was about having a whole room of people behind me having district attorneys, city attorneys, having community groups, having gang interventionists, having mothers who have lost children to gang violence, being able to stand up in front of these individuals that were called in, who again had a high propensity of being involved in shootings or shooting someone else, and talking about what it was like to lose their 11-year-old daughter to a gang drive-by shooting. So again, to me, gangs are nothing new. I look forward to learning about the gangs that are here. And more importantly too, the relationship that you had with that community that articulated out to you those specifics, those fears, those ideas, I want that. I want to be able to make sure that I understand what they are feeling. And I want to make sure, again, that they feel safe enough to come forward and let us know about that.
Will you commit to going to these gang hotspots to visit these communities and being a boot on the ground there to learn more about what they're experiencing?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Chief Aaron Adelson, 9 News. LA reportedly settled a lawsuit for more than $1 million from a former officer under your command for failing to address his concerns about racism. How can you ensure that members of this department and the community will be treated equally?
Yeah. And I'm going to rephrase what you said because it was about me not addressing the issue. Again, I think that's one of the reasons why I'm here, because that lawsuit specifically came from a hostile, discriminatory work environment that was allowed to go for way too long. I stepped into a command. I was there for about 2 weeks. An officer approached me and said, hey, I got this thing here. I don't feel comfortable with this. I realized what was going on, and it was a small unit. I realized what was going on. I actually removed the sergeant from the position, put him into another place. I got called in our environmental workplace unit. The environmental workplace unit started to find out that, hey, this isn't just one singular event. This is a pattern of conduct that has been taking place for approximately about 4 years. It was black on black officers, it was Hispanic on black, it was Asian on black, and then there was a couple of white officers that were involved in this as well. But it was basically a practice that this unit has been allowed to basically cultivate. And so again, I was there for 2 weeks. I saw this, I identified it. It went from an internal workplace evaluation. Then I said, this is involving internal affairs based on the hostility, based upon everything, the discriminatory issues, based upon all the items. So it then went to internal affairs. Ultimately, a number of those officers got relocated or reassigned. There was a lawsuit. I was never named in the lawsuit. As a matter of fact, the officer who was actually generated the lawsuit was the one who was actually involved in the majority of the discrimination issues that were noted in the lawsuit and came out in the internal affairs investigation. So again, when you asked me about that, I'm thankful you did, because when you look at cultural changes of an organization, I think you have to have a leader, or you have to have someone in charge who's willing to step forward and take those on. And I tell you, it's not a pleasant experience. I think you've all probably been involved in workplace issues or have seen it, and you know how it can basically eat away the core of not only that unit, but of an entire organization. And I'm not going to accept that. And if I find that here, I'm going to do the same thing. And I'm telling you, it's not pleasant. It's a heavy burden to carry. It's a heavy load. But that's why I'm in this position. Because I am going to articulate out what I need to fix, what I need to change. If there's issues, I'm going to address them. I'm not going to say I'm going to sit in the chair for 2 years and wait until somebody else comes in and fix them. I'm going to fix them. And again, it's not fun, it's not pleasant, and it's not the last and the first one that I've ever done. I've done many of them, and I have no problem with doing that. Because I think it's important to address not only the issue, the problem, the racial issues, the discrimination issues, the workplace environment issues. It's not only important to do it for the people that are the ones that are actually causing the problem, it's important for me at that time to do it for the other 400 officers that I had who saw that going on and realized no one was taking any concern about it. So this must just be okay. Well, it's not okay. And so again, that's what I look forward to doing here as well. And that's one of the reasons I hope I'm here.
I thought the claim was that you refused to file a complaint.
Absolutely not. And if it was, that's how, again, a defendant can write it up, or someone in a lawsuit, they can write whatever they want on court paper. All they have to do is say it. They don't have to ever prove it.
You know, they got $1.2 million.
They did. And again, I was never involved in that. I was never involved in the lawsuit. I was the one that identified the issue. I was the one that brought it up to the attention. I was the one that basically, you had a unit where people they thought all this stuff was funny. They thought, hey, we're all friends, we're all buddies. And then all of a sudden, once the investigation started, it wasn't so much fun anymore. It was like, hey, this is wrong. We know it's wrong. We knew it was wrong, but nobody had the desire or the strength to stop it. Well, I do. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, law enforcement for a really long time. Just to give the city a sense of what it's like for you personally, can you just tell us about one instance that has been particularly satisfying for you as a cop?
There's been a lot of them, but I think this is probably one of the most, right here, what I'm doing right now, being able to take on this role. Again, all the positions, all of the things that I've done, all of the successes and all the failures, all the disappointments and all the positives, for me, they all kind of commonly or come together for this position right here. I think this is really kind of the pinnacle of what I can do, of where I can serve and where I can give. Again, I know some of you might be asking, I remember I got a call yesterday and they said, hey, how old's this guy? You know, what's he doing? And you know what, I got no problem because I'm here for a reason. And that reason is I still believe in law enforcement. I still believe we can serve, and I look forward to doing that.
One more question, please.
Chief, it's Michael Avita with CBS News Colorado. I don't need to tell you, or it's been well documented, there's been a lot of instability at the top of this department. What can you tell the people of Aurora who are looking for stability in this department? How are you going to bring that, and are you committed to being here and righting the ship long term?
I think the message is that give me a chance. Let's partner. Let's collaborate, and let's work together. And again, I'm here for the long haul. I'm here to make those relationships that are going to last. I'm here to build trust. I think like in any relationship, if you don't have trust, you don't have a positive relationship. And so again, my first part of that is going to be building trust within the organization with the people that I serve. And then it's going to be building trust with the community, the people that they serve and the people that I serve from my position. And again, that's really what I want to do is convey, is that this is really about a collaboration. And when I meant collaboration, like I mean a whole of government collaboration. One thing you're going to find is that I don't sit just within my organization. I really like to look at what's going on outside. I like to look at other services we can get, other community groups we can get, other nationally known groups we can get. Like I mentioned, you know, Operation Ceasefire and National Network for Safe Communities and David Kennedy. Those are the systems that I like to bring in because I think you can't put that yoke of responsibility just on law enforcement alone. And when you look at the issues that law enforcement contends with now, again, they're not trained for it. They're not homeless experts. They're not mental health experts. They can't deal with the social issues. We need partnerships and we need relationships to do that. When you talk about the gang influx and the migrant population, again, we could drive around and we can go past the street and we can think everything's great, but you never know what's going on behind that door. What are those issues behind that we're not seeing? And the only way that can come out is if there's trust. And if somebody will step forward and say, hey, listen, I want to tell you about what exactly is going on in this apartment complex and who's involved and when they're involved and how it's occurring and what's occurring. Those are the aspects. The stability part for me is going to be the long run. It's going to be just making sure that we start out with trust and making sure that I say and do what I'm up here talking about right now.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Jason.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much, everybody, and I look forward to talking to you all. Thank you very much.
Good to see you.